Tonight I want to talk to you about one way of organising your speech. I believe it's a very classic way, a very good way, and if you follow it, you're almost sure not to fail. Before I do that, however, I want to talk about the structure of the speech. How long should you have in your introduction? How long should the body of your speech be? And how long in the conclusion? Put a little graphic on the piece of paper that I've given you, and if you haven't got that out, just grab that now. Your introduction should be around about 10%. Now 10% of a 7-minute speech is 42 seconds, nearly 3/4 of a minute. And your conclusion about the same, leaving you a big patch in the middle for your body. That's a rule of thumb. It may not suit for some people. For instance, some people often have longer introductions. That's fine. But if you want to have a way of doing things, this is a way. Now, in your introduction, your opening to your speech, you want to capture the imagination and the attention of your listeners. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to tell you about growing up in a little country seaside town in Dunedin. Did that do the trick? Let me tell you how I did that, Dave. Let me tell you how I really should have done it. I'm going to tell you about how I grew up in a place that became infamous because a mass murder occurred there. Aramoana. And I lived there. And I knew David Gray very well. Got your attention now? Absolutely. I once heard a guy talking about 2 guys he was going to talk about. They were mountain climbers. And he did it like I did it a minute ago. But in reality, what he should have said is, I'm going to tell you about 2 mountain climbers that come from a country that is famous for mountain climbers and renowned for people who do adventurous things. Again, catches the imagination, catches the interest. You really want to make that point straight away. There are lots of ways you can do it, making it punchy like I just did. Ask a question. Those rhetorical questions are great. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be wealthy? Wouldn't you like to ride on an America's Cup yacht? You know they do about 80 kilometres an hour, don't you? It's phenomenal speed. Or make a statement, short people are aggressive. Men make better drivers. Oh, you're going to get the blood boiling to at least half of your audience and probably more. Or a quote. It's famous at the moment. I have a dream. Something that really says, hey, sit up and listen. I'm going to tell you something you need to hear. And then as part of your introduction, you also say where your speech is going to go. We technically call it signposting. In my speech, I'm going to tell you about how I learned to ride a 2-wheel bicycle, how I learned that I could use my imagination, and how I overcame a challenge by climbing a massive sand cliff. That's where my speech is going. Now into the body of your speech. You talk about each one of those 3 points and you expand on it with some important details and then further details, and you keep expanding out and expanding out. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I learned how to ride a bicycle, 2-wheel bicycle when I was there. I was about 8 years old. I wasn't tall enough to ride my brother's bike because it had the bar through the middle. But in those days, my sister's bike didn't have that. And so I could stand on the pedals and hands up on this. Yes, I was short. And hands up on the handlebars, and I could ride. And I rode it outside our holiday house. It was a really rough gravel road. did it in bare feet. I remember doing it deliberately, because I thought that if I have to stop and put my feet down, it's going to hurt. So I had to learn how to ride, and ride quickly. I had to put my feet down once and thought, oh, I'm not going to do that again. And so I learned how to ride a two-wheel bicycle that day. And I was riding all over the place within a short time. The idea was ride a bicycle, and then I gave you the details. Another one, I learned how to overcome a challenge. There was this steep sand cliff. It must have been 60 degrees. Dangerous. My parents had forbidden me to do it. And me and a mate, we ran away one day, along the beach, around the rock. There was the sand hill. And we climbed that sand hill together. Tenaciously, step after step. We've made it all the way to the top. And at the top, we stood there like a couple of pirates of old, and we raised our arms, and we shouted, and we yahooed, and we carried on. It was fantastic. We'd overcome the challenge. I still remember that as my mate was doing the dance, I pushed him. But the neat part of it was that I fell after him, and I tumbled down as well. Getting up was the challenge. Rolling back down was the fun. And it was a lot of fun. 3 points to your body. Tell it, make the point, tell a story, expand on your idea, describe it as much as you can. Then move on to the next one, and the next one. When it comes to your conclusion, what you can do is to summarise those 3 points. In my speech, I've told you about how I learned to ride a bicycle, to use my imagination, and to overcome a challenge. Those 3 things. You should try and leave people a little bit with a challenge. Something uplifting. Something that's going to remember. Try again. Help them remember your speech for years to come. The boy I pushed off the cliff that day was David Gray. And I kid you not. It was quite a moment, if you like, when I first learned, and that was my icebreaker speech, which I gave you, by the way. When I was driving home, practicing it, I suddenly remembered that who the boy was. I nearly drove off the road, but it was pretty important. I left people with something to remember, and I've still got people that say to me, I remember your icebreaker speech because of that. So colloquially speaking, in the opening, this is what I'm going to say, and I want you to listen. In the body, tell everybody about it. In conclusion, this is what I've said.